Okay. Alright. So, I just want to say, in this one, man, shout out. But, in this one, I want to say, if you are cutting body fat, you must know this, or you are losing gains, or doing it wrong in general. Doing it too slow or inefficiently. So, if you're cutting body fat, if you're on a body fat cut, you gotta know this. You got to know this. It just breaks my heart to see people cutting body fat not knowing this all the time. You know, because this is real crucial. Because I've been there. This one thing is so important. So, this is the main kicker here. Excuse me. The main kicker here. We can only burn 31 calories per pound of body fat per day. $31 calories per pound of body fat per day. The rest of the calories that we burn other than that are going to come from our muscles. Yep. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. We never want that. Muscle mass is the healthiest mass to have, aside from skeletal mass. But, yeah, so that's a really important thing. Because if you're cutting, you don't want to be burning that precious muscle by just dropping your calories too crazy and still burning your calories consumed too crazy and then still burning a whole lot. Like, nah, man. Especially when you get into cutting fat or cutting carbs instead of fat. Oh my goodness. I hate when people think that cutting means you gotta cut carbs. Like, what, dude? Like, it's like you forgot everything you learned about, you know, that it's all about calories in, calories out. Cause like, man, if you know anything about the type of calories you're eating, you know carbs are almost the main one you want. For, you know, in general, for anybody. And then there's protein. And then fat calories we don't even want. We just want omegas, but I'm gonna get into that in a second. We just want essential fatty acids, grams of that. You know, we don't want fat calories. We don't want extra fat, you know. I mean, fat calories are realistically, no, we'd rather have carbohydrate calories, because if we really need fat calories, it'll turn it to fat calories, and our body would rather burn carbohydrate regardless. In every condition, no matter what, our body would always prefer to have carbohydrate for energy. And even at a lean body fat, we will always have plenty of fat. Plenty of fat. More than we could ever want. At every human's proper body fat percent, we can live at least a month without food without doing much. Like, we can't just be like jogging every day, but we can live for a month without food on our bodies at a lean body fat because of how much calories that much fat is. So we can only burn 31 calories per pound of body fat of it every day. And so if you need to know how much body fat you have, you need to get you a scale like the Renfro Health Scale on Amazon, which is what I have, which I hopefully will have linked in the description. You need to get that because that's important. Because you need to get something like it at least, something to track your body fat, because having that number is so amazing. Knowing that you're 12.6% body fat at 168.2 pounds, and then you can type that into your calculator and figure out exactly that's like 23.1 pounds of body fat is amazing. And then you multiply that by 31 and boom! There is your deficit for the day. That's it. That's your deficit. That is your daily deficit. It's not 1,000 calories, it's not 2,000 calories, it's not 500 calories, it's 761 calories maybe. Boom, that's your deficit. You see what I'm saying? It could be high, it could be low. You know what I'm saying? And it goes down quick. The more fat you lose, the lower your deficit gets. So yeah, that's so important. You know, get your body fat scale, do that little equation, you know, figure out how much body fat you got, and then multiply it by 31 calories per pound of body fat per day to figure out your deficit, your calorie deficit. That is the only number for your deficit calculation you should be using, okay? So, second tip. That was the first tip. Second tip is cut calories, which I already said this. Cut calories from fat, not from carbs. And I assume we're already going to not cut any calories from protein or change that too much. So most people, when they're cutting, they choose to cut from carbs, because most of the time you're eating a lot of carbs anyways when you're bulking, which is right, you should, because you need the energy. But you still need the energy even when you're cutting, because I assume you're still exercising, right? So yeah, don't cut calories from carbs. We don't want extra fat. First off, carbs are used for energy and for muscle, so that's just more potential for any of those calories to be used for that. Fat is going to be used for nothing but just adding on to this. And if your goal is to lose fat at the time, you're giving your body that much more workload of fat to lose. Like, you're literally yes, the carbs that you don't burn, if you didn't burn them, would turn to fat, but chances are you're going to either burn them, store them as glycogen to use for later, or convert them to use them for muscle building somehow. Use them somehow. Versus a fat calorie that is most definitely going to just add to this. So if your goal is to cut fat, you're putting yourself at such a disadvantage by giving yourself more fat calories to burn. Essentially, you're just adding to that like, holy crap, to that deficit number. You're literally increasing it, basically. Whatever calories from fat you want to eat, you're just adding to that number, basically. I'm pretty sure. But so that's what that is. So cut your calories from fat, not from carbs. Another reason to do this is because, like I said before also, we don't eat fat for fat calories. No humans eat fat to chug a bottle of lard or to chug even necessarily olive oil for the fat calories. We don't want that energy from fat. We want either from protein or carbohydrates. Fat we eat to get the essential fatty acids, which you can have a lot of omegas in one thing and not many in another thing. So it's about making healthier fat choices. It's about choosing avocados, olive oil, nuts, seafood, if you're going that route. If you're going with animals, even poultry and eggs have good healthy fats. Like I said, nuts, seeds, avocado, olive oil, all those things. That's going to be your sources of healthy fats. So, that's just what is important there. You want to choose good fats that are high in omegas, so you're getting all that you need from fats. The point of eating fats is to eat good ones, not to eat fat. Like, you don't need to eat fat calories. Like, if all the fat foods didn't have calories from fat and they just had omegas, that would be best. Like, there's just never a reason, unless you were just needing the literal calories, because that's a good reason to need fat calories, is when you literally need the literal gas in your tank to get by. That is where you're getting a real dense calorie. So yeah, that is typically how fat adds into a diet. Realistically, is that it adds in as nice energy that adds up throughout food you eat. But like, if you were to eat straight, money style, if you could, it would probably be like, rice, chicken, vegetables, and then like an omega pill or something like that. Potentially. If not, it's like avocado or it cooked in olive oil, something like that. Or just eating beans, because beans actually have great fat in them too, and are great protein. But, so that's the second thing, is cut your calories from fat, not from carbs, for those reasons. And 3, the last reason I'll say, is train hardest in your most fed state, but do as much fasting as possible. That's meaning that fasting is really good for fat loss, but you don't want to do anything more than mostly really just walking when you're fasted. I'm a big fan for working out fasted, but I'm more so probably a fan for working out fasted when you're not in a deficit. When you're in more of a stage where you're just constantly, fed with as much carbs as possible. Excuse me. Then that's probably your better state to train fasted in. But either way, it's okay to train fasted. It's just, I like to treat, for the most part, fasting is like a time to rest and do low intensity things. And, being fed is when you have the gasoline, the fuel to go. And so, like, it is good to train hardest, you know, when you're as fed as possible. They say it's good to train, you know, during the late evening, stuff like that. But yeah, training, you know, in your most fed state is really good because you're just getting that much, you just have that much more energy and fuel for the exercise. Something that motivated me about this again just now, I've thought this before and felt this before, but I watched some Samsulek video where he was saying that it was just important to him to train, for the most part, to train later in the day after he's eaten multiple meals, because that's when his body's mostly fed. And that's kind of more like how the body runs. You know, I said throughout the week, you know, if you're on a week where you've been eating carbs every day, maxed out, then you know, you're in kind of like a more fed state. But mostly the body works on a daily basis of like, you know, like in the morning it's about reset and ready, like the tank's empty, ready to be filled up for the day. And then by the end of the night, it kind of empties out and resets for the morning. So when you're, you know, training, you know, when you're eating, using the day to fuel up and then training your hardest in your most fed state, that's typically a way that you're making sure that you're putting those carbs to work, and that protein, whatever you eat, and the fats even, fat calories to work, instead of letting them just sit there. Instead of like eating your little breakfast and then working out as hard as you need to, and then having your muscles at that point eating themselves because they were starved of glycogen because you didn't eat enough pancakes at breakfast. And so, and enough syrup on your pancakes either. And so, you know, you're just, you know, instead of like 3 meals in or 4 meals in, you're just that 1 meal in, which is going to be a good bit of carbs, but still. It's just, if you had that much more carbs, you'd have that much more to spare, and it just used to grow, and just like, you know, to me, I feel like all carbs should pretty much be consumed in the day before a workout. I feel like a perfect day, just to end this video, I think a perfect day of eating, especially on like a cut, or even in general, is typically, like for just a working man and just a working human being in general, like a typical diet. I watched a Western where John Wayne, he ate breakfast one morning, and he complimented the mother that cooked it and said, "I'm all grained up for a day's work." So I took that, you know, thinking, I feel that a lot, where you're basically, the main goal for every human is to get as much food in throughout the day early as possible, because obviously your appetite's going to be easier, especially for me, to eat if I start early and eat throughout the day rather than trying to cram it all in later. If you eat your carbs and stuff, and all your other stuff too, and then have your biggest workout, and then post-workout, maybe some carbs, but maybe even not. Maybe just a protein and a vegetable, you know. But if you're going the non-vegan route, if you're going like a lean protein and a lean carb vegetable like broccoli or spinach, like a green, it's gonna be mostly fiber, just to, you know, let the body, like, you know, chill on, you know, let the body like use what it's got, basically, in terms of glycogen, in terms of carbohydrates, and food in general. I just think that'd be a pretty good day, but maybe not. Maybe it's good to get in you a good dose of carbohydrates before sleep too, but obviously not a full day's worth, or even more than just like a night's worth, or a post-workout's worth. But yeah, so that's my tips on cutting body fat. I'd love for Samsulek to see this. I'd love for a lot of people to see this, because it's real important, man. Because like when you're doing a cut, you know, you don't want to be, you know, this is a beautiful tip that can make you be cutting in a whole different way, with a whole different perspective. It did for me, versus like just kind of mindlessly throwing yourself at a calorie deficit. This one, you feel so much more power when you're utilizing all the carbs you can, and you're utilizing all the calories you can, and you just know that you've shredded exactly that much fat, and boom, you're done. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you probably want to save those calories to come from the end of the day. Like your deficit, you probably want to, like, you know, eat your food, burn it, and then let your body not eat much more food. And so your body basically burns those however many calories, either over sleep or, like, you know, just within the rest of the day, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So, that's money. Let's get it, man. cut good. Thank you, Jeremyethier, I think is who gave me that tip, gave that tip and did the study and research or whatever, found out, on the 31 calories per pound of body fat. That's awesome. Most important thing I ever found. Let's get it, man.